So let's go ahead and talk about this. And I understand if I make some people mad and I piss some people off, but if you're not an avid WNBA watcher, if you don't love the game like I do, um, if you don't got WNBA league pass like I do, and you feel some type of way about these comments that I'm about to make, go argue with somebody who don't like to hear you talk. All right. Connecticut Sun. The Connecticut Sun are at best, as it stands of June 22nd, at best the Connecticut Sun is the sixth best team in the WNBA, even though they have the best record in the WNBA. Okay. They have a 13-2 record, which is number one in terms of the standings, but I got them as the sixth best team right now. My rankings as of June 22nd. Number one, I got the Liberty. Number two, I got the Lynx. Number three, I got the Aces. Four, I got Mercury. Five, I got the Seattle Storm. And six, I got the Connecticut Sun. Like I said, I could understand why some people may feel slighted or disrespected, but I also feel like if you're truly watching the game, and I ain't just saying the games that are broadcasted, just paying attention to all the games, you feel me? The Connecticut Sun they have played the most teams below 500. They've played out of their 15 game 15 games, 11 of those games have been against teams that are below 500, right? And they're 11-0. So get them credit for beating teams that they're supposed to beat. Cool, bet. But those ain't teams that you're going to have to deal with and see in the playoffs. And that's what I'm basing these rankings off of, based off who can you possibly beat or lose to within a 3-game or 5-game series, right? And they're 13 with their 13-2 record, 11 games below teams of 500, and then you got 4 games with teams above 500. With those above games, with those 4 games of versus teams that are above 500, they're 2-2. And those 2 losses are against the Aces, who didn't even have Chelsea Gray. And the other loss was to the New York Liberty. You're not beating the Liberty in a best of 3, and if you can't beat the Aces in a best of 3 without Chelsea Gray, you damn sure not gonna beat them with Chelsea Gray, and Chelsea Gray has returned. And since Chelsea Gray has returned, the Aces are 2-0 with Chelsea Gray being back. Granted, she's coming off the bench, but nonetheless, her debut versus the Storm, she played 15 minutes and had 7 assists. So that just goes to speak to Chelsea Gray's immediate impact and being back on the team. And this is her coming off the bench. The Aces are only going to get better with time as Chelsea Gray continues to get her legs up under her and gets more confident coming back from her leg injury, right? Then the Lynx. The Lynx, you've only beat them once. And when you did beat them, you beat them by 1 point in overtime. And so the reason I like the Lynx, I put the Lynx up there is because the Lynx got a win against the Aces. They got a win against the Storm. As a matter of fact, they've been 3-0 with the Storm with the Lynx. So shout out to Nafisha Collier, McBride, and Elena Smith, and and also too Courtney Williams, and like what they building over there. That acquisition of Courtney Williams, I think, is like huge for them with how she goes about facilitating and playing defense. And it's also even better because Nafisha Collier was doing what she's doing this season. She was doing last year, however, because they were not a top tier team, it tended to get overlooked. But now it's great to see that she's still playing at a high level, and it's being rewarded with her having great pieces around her, and it's translating to winning. Right. So again, the Lynx, they beat the Liberty Aces and the Storm. The Aces. And this is without, well, the Aces have beat the Storm, the Sun, the Lynx, and the Mercury. They lost to the Liberty, however. And so when you look at like who these other teams that are above the Connecticut Sun in terms of top tier teams, they have beat the other top tier teams, right? And they have had a far tougher schedule than the Connecticut Sun. And it really just comes down to, even if you don't want to try to evaluate who won, who beat, like, bro, y'all just got the Sun, the Connecticut Sun just got a weak ass schedule, bro. They just simple and plain. They got a weak ass schedule, bro. They done played the Fever 3 times, the Wings twice, the Mystics twice. The Fever right now, low key, we'll talk about it later. The Fever low key a playoff team right now, but the Wings, horrific injury luck right now to start off the season. The Mystics, worst team in the league, right? Then the Sky, they below 500, and then you done beat the Sparks, who ain't that great, and the Dream, who ain't that great either. Like, y'all had a easy ass schedule. Like, there's no way around it, and we can't get lost up in like, oh, they 13-2. Oh, they started off the season 10-0. It's like, well, shit, playing those teams, I hope you started off 9-0, 10-0, right? And they have the record. They're one of 6 or 7 teams in the WNBA history to start off like 9-0 or 10-0 or like 10-1, 11-1 or something like that. And of those teams that have, had those hot starts to the season, 9-0, 10-0, whatever, they've at least made it to the NBA finals. They've either made it to the finals or they won the championship. If, as of today, if damn Aces don't have to knock out the Liberty, I would argue that the Sun not even going to the NBA finals this year. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, shall we? I talked about this on the first episode, right? These other teams too, like the Liberty, they got a mismatch every way. They got people who can create offense on their own. The Lynx, they got players who can create offense on their own. The Aces, they got players who can create offense on their own. Mercury, you got Diana Taurasi, you got Brittany Griner, you got a superstar this year in Kalia Copper, like, can create on their own. Storm, Diggins, you got Jewel, you got Naka, can create on their own. Shout out to you too, Izzy. You know what I'm saying? Then the Sun, who can create on their own outside of Bonner on a consistent basis that has been shown. I'll wait. Still need some time. And so, like, with the way the Sun offense is set up, bro, it's a heavy DHO offense, dribble handoff action. And if most outside of Bonner, bro, the way the offense is constructed, everybody got to get spoon fed by Alyssa Thomas. You watched the game against the Aces last night. When you got decent defenders in every spot, and you can't just sit there and dribble handoff, or they're fighting you and disrupting your offense because they're not letting you get a smooth dribble handoff, they're gonna struggle. Also, too, while they do have a good defense, y'all would have a great defense when y'all playing 11 teams on y'all schedule that's below 500. Your defense would say you're top tier, right? when you playing those types of teams, um, when you when you have they play at a slow pace. So let's start there. When it comes time when they're trailing against these teams and they may be down 20 or maybe down 15 or whatever, and it may be 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, in order to make a run, you have to play at a faster pace. I don't believe that that's the makeup of their game unless they're getting like in transition turnovers and they're able to quickly score. But outside of that, their offensive rhythm is slow. And I just don't their offensive rhythm is slow. And Alyssa Thomas has to feed everybody more times than not outside of DeWanna Bonner. The way their team is constructed, the way the offense is constructed, I think it's not a championship team. They won't, I'll say this, put me on record. They won't win a championship this year. They will not win the championship this year, barring injury to other teams with the way this team is currently constructed. I said last week, I feel like Alyssa Thomas, because she's has the ball in her hand most of the time, she should lean towards maybe trying to score more. But I retract that statement because watching them more, I see that Alyssa Thomas' superpower is her playmaking ability, her facilitating ability. And I think if she would lean towards trying to score more, outside of the fact, with her shoulder injuries and her like shooting the ball a very unorthodox way, outside of that, I think if you tried to ask her to score more, right, you would take away from her true superpower, which again is her playmaking. So, in retracting that statement, saying that she needs to score more, I would say I would delegate that responsibility towards Bonner. I believe Bonner is averaging like 18, 19 points a game. I think Bonner needs to get up there to maybe 25, maybe, if possible, if they could find a way to, structure that offense to where it doesn't have to be so Alyssa Thomas eccentric in terms of like playmaking. And I believe that Dejanay Carrington also could shoulder some of that responsibility as a scorer. I know she's already asked to do a whole lot in terms of her scoring ability. I mean, in terms of her defense and having to always guard the best player out there on defense on a night-to-night basis. I know she's asked to do a lot from their regard, but I wouldn't also look to have her shoulder that scoring responsibility, being a superb two-way player on offense and defense, if I didn't think that she was capable of doing so. So yeah, man. The Sun gonna have to figure it out because they don't get trapped in what their record is. They are not an elite top team defense compared to your Liberties and what the Aces are developing to with having Chelsea Grayback. Um, what the potential of the Lynx and what the Storm have and what they're trying to develop. Here's the other thing too. Let's give some respects to the Mercury. The Mercury are the only team currently right now, as of June 22nd, to have wins over the Liberty, Aces, the Lynx, and the Storm. So they got 4 wins over, these top tier teams. They got 4 wins over teams above 500. And I believe in a playoff stretch, they could upset somebody. Who I don't know, but I think they could definitely upset somebody. Kalia Copper been balling, having a career high year with the points that she's been averaging, and so and then you got Diana Taurasi. And then I think a big addition to them as of lately, has been Brittany Griner. Her coming back from her injury, she's looking like she hasn't missed a beat. Doesn't look like the injury is something that's nagging her or like causing her to be on a minutes restriction or having her to like not play at her fullest capability. But what Brittany Griner has been doing is been looking real great. So just real quick respects to the Phoenix Mercury. Um, Brittany Griner averaging 21.7 rebounds. Uh, and Copper, like I said, she's having her a career high, averaging 23 points per game. So big time respects to the Phoenix Mercury. I would even put the Phoenix Mercury above, which I did in my rankings. but yeah, the Sun, they're not that hot, bro. Don't believe the cap. Their record is capped. It's soft as hell to start off the season, and that only makes me even more scared because at some point their schedule should get tougher. Yeah, but that's that on the Connecticut side, and like I say, go argue with somebody who don't like to hear you talk.